Welcome everyone to the Citizen Schools AmeriCorps Fellowship Info Session. I'm Nadia K. Selby. I am the interim CEO for Citizen Schools, and I am super excited to have you all within the room. We have a jam-packed 30 minutes that includes question and answers, but I wanted to make sure we get started right away. So I'm passing it over to Brian.
Thanks so much, Nadia, and welcome everyone. My name is Brian O'Neill. I'm the director of our AmeriCorps Maker Fellowship program. So grateful to see all of you today. I've been with the organization in this role for 3 years, but in a bunch of other roles for close to a decade now, and excited to be collaborating with my team today that you'll get to meet now. Martine, take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Martín Orjales. I am the Director of Education Partnerships in Massachusetts. I've been at the role for about 6 months now, so fairly new, but excited to share everybody information about the AmeriCorps Fellowship Program with you. Tina, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So excited to be here with you today. I'm the Managing Director of Community Partnerships, so I oversee our work in California, New York, and Massachusetts. I am blessed to work with Martín and Mia in those spaces, and then I have a particular focus on California. So excited to be here with you. Lots of learning to do and looking forward to partnering with you all in the future. Mia?
Thank you, Tina. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mia Moraz, and I am the Director of our Education Partnerships here in New York City. Very excited for all of you to be joining us today. And to get us started, I'll kick it back over to Martín.
Great. So once again, thank you all for joining. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And there we go. So welcome everyone to the AmeriCorps Fellowship Information Session. Again, my name is Martín Orjales. I am the Director of Community Partnerships in Massachusetts. And I'd like to thank my fellow panelists here today from Citizen Schools for joining us and sharing the information with us. So Tina Ochoa and Mia Moares are joining on as our Q&A moderators. They will be answering any questions and answers that you will have throughout the chat. So please, 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 anytime you have a thought, put it in that Q&A. We have it open for everyone. It will be enabled throughout, and at the end of the webinar, we will take time to answer any unanswered questions here, as well as send them out after the webinar has concluded. Anything we didn't have the chance to get to will be sent out written. Our webinar will also be recorded, so we will be sending the recording as well as the slides once we are done. We'll make sure to respond, send those summarized responses as well as any of the handouts. So with intros done, let's get right into the agenda. Thanks to my panelists. I'll ask you all to turn off your camera and to go down into the attendance list. All right. So the agenda today will be divided into 4 parts. First, we'll have an overview of Citizen Schools. Then we'll talk about the AmeriCorps program generally, get into the specifics of the fellowship program, and then get into details of explaining what it means to be a host site, both the process and the benefits of the program. So to start us off, let's talk about Citizen Schools. As Citizen Schools, we believe that all students thrive in school and beyond through hands-on learning and career mentors. Our vision is that all students have career mentors that ignite curiosity, build confidence, and help them develop into the next generation of leaders. And our values are confidence, curiosity, DEIB, perseverance, and teamwork. Our programs build off of these basic blocks to form authentic educational experiences for students everywhere. And that's visible in our guiding principles. First off, authentic experience-based learning. Learners thrive when engaged in creative, human-centered problems. And what better way than with an activated community? Having those around you take active participation in education and learning. A good way to do that is bringing your community into authentic learning, and it's achieved through active personal engagement with diverse mentorship. All these combine to enrich learners and inspire them to become agents of change within their communities. You'll see these principles come alive today through our AmeriCorps Fellowship Program. So, without further ado, I'd like to hand it off to Brian.
Thanks, Martine. At Citizen Schools, we're a proud AmeriCorps sponsor, and I want to speak a little bit about AmeriCorps 101, share their mission and vision, some of the core principles, differences between a service year and an employee, and then introduce you to 4 of our fellows that have completed their service year or are actively serving across the country. Every year, 200,000 individuals sign up to get things done for AmeriCorps, for America through national service. All of this is made possible by AmeriCorps, from natural disaster relief to emergency COVID support, to supporting homelessness support and prevention programs, to education programs. AmeriCorps is the federal agency that provides the backbone support that leads to direct impacts for communities all across the country. At Citizen Schools, we've been working with AmeriCorps for 15 plus years and are proud to have recruited, trained, and placed close to 1,000 AmeriCorps service members. Our AmeriCorps Fellowship program that we'll be speaking about today is part of the AmeriCorps VISTA program. VISTA stands for Volunteers in Service to AmeriCorps. And for VISTA projects to succeed, they need to embrace, embody, and reflect each of these 4 core principles. First, ending poverty. A VISTA's project's goal is helping individuals and communities to move out of poverty, rather than making poverty more tolerable through short-term services. Next, creating sustainable solutions. VISTA members build capacity for organizations to address poverty long after the VISTAs are gone. So while all of our AmeriCorps fellows serve a 1-year term, we want to work with you to make sure that they're developing systems, relationships, and transferring knowledge that will lead to larger community impact in the long term, beyond their 1-year term of service. Next, empowering communities. A VISTA project engages residents of low-income communities in planning and development and implementation of the project. Last, building capacity. VISTA members strengthen, expand, and increase the reach of anti-poverty organizations and programs by working on projects with staff and volunteers rather than directly with people in need. There are several core differences between an employee and a service member. First, service, not work. All AmeriCorps members sign up because they have some sort of intrinsic motivation for serving. This could be to help communities in need, acquire valuable professional development, explore career opportunities and pathways. And it's important that we understand their underlying motivations so that we can best support them during their service year. Next, they're members, not employees. So while each AmeriCorps fellow would be placed with your organization and be integrated into your team, they are part of the federal government and they are a federal employee. And thus we make sure that we're really setting up their service year in that way. Next, they receive a stipend, not a salary. So each of our AmeriCorps members, the federal government sets their stipend level based on the community that they're serving. We do provide a robust benefits package and are really competitive in the benefits package that we provide, including a housing stipend that each fellow receives. Next, it's a fellowship, not an internship. So what this means is that we're really focused on the development of our fellows, their learning and their development, and want to really ensure that through their year of service, they're becoming lifelong leaders in the education and nonprofit sector. They can support with some administrative activities. If you have a big event coming up and all hands on deck to support, they can definitely do that, but they cannot be focused solely on administrative activities. All right, so with that said, I want to introduce you to a couple of our fellows. So first, meet Jordan. Jordan is a University of District of Columbia alumnus and found this opportunity as a way to give back to his alma mater. So UDC came to Citizen Schools because they were planning to launch the campus's first ever makerspace and were in need of some support. During his service year, Jordan played an integral role in engaging multiple departments and community stakeholders in the development of their first ever makerspace. He also formed a community advisory committee to continue ensuring active community participation in the development of this project after his service year. Next, meet Charlie. Charlie joined AmeriCorps as a career transition after a productive career in engineering. He wanted to get more involved in education and the nonprofit sector and felt like AmeriCorps was a great way to do that. His host site, Cambridge Public Schools, came to us because they had several new spaces across 4 different schools. that were engaging youth in hands-on experiential learning opportunities, but they felt like there was more opportunity to foster collaboration across schools. So Charlie took this project on, visiting each site, interviewing the educators, and developing a plan for how to create more opportunities for collaboration and pooling of resources across the schools. We're going to talk in a moment about the 3 different tracks that each of our fellows are working in, and Jordan and Charlie are both in the program track that our program is focused on. Next, meet Kishana. Kishana is serving at the United Way of Massachusetts Bay and Merrimack Valley. She was able to put her strong communication and relationship building skills to good use at United Way. United Way serves as an intermediary organization that brings together dozens of youth serving organizations for one-time STEM camps and events. Kishana helped to develop agendas and provide support for coalition meetings and was instrumental in developing several new partnerships for the organization. Last, Desiree serves at the Rediscover Center in LA. Desiree is able to put her passion and creativity to work at Rediscover Center, which is a nonprofit organization that's mission is to provide makers with the tools, resources, and confidence to engage in creative reuse and self-expression. They educate youth of all levels of expertise in transforming discarded materials into art, functional objects, and tools for learning. Desiree is in our volunteer track of programming and has engaged local businesses and individuals to participate in their programming. Martine, back to you.
It's absolutely always great hearing about what our AmeriCorps are doing. I'll tell you, I started off as an AmeriCorps member in Northern Virginia for a different nonprofit, but I'd love to hear from anyone in the chat. If you started off as an AmeriCorps member, please put it in there. So now, having a better understanding of what AmeriCorps is, let's dive into Citizen Schools AmeriCorps Fellowship Program. First, let's talk about the 3 tracks. Brian already mentioned a little bit about this, but the 3 tracks are partnerships, programs, and volunteers. The fellow can assist you along any one of these 3 tracks, and they are fairly broad, so take some time to think about which would most benefit your organization. It's important to note that whichever track is chosen, the fellow will be working with you collaboratively. They'll seek to improve or expand existing systems and can assist with designing and implementing new ones. In the partnerships track, fellows collaborate with you to connect with like-minded local organizations. With programs, they work alongside you to augment your programs. And finally, in volunteers, fellows will increase access to skilled local volunteers. Fairly simple with the names of the tracks, but hopefully they cover enough that you can understand where your organization would fit. The track you choose guides not only the learning pathway for the fellow, but also our search and onboarding process, ensuring that they have the tools necessary to meet their objectives within the track. AmeriCorps, you have to remember, is a capacity building program, as Brian said. So direct service is not the primary purpose. It's capacity building both for your organization and for the AmeriCorps fellow. They are there for 1 year, and they're meant to have a ripple effect at your organization. You can kind of think of them like rocket boosters that'll kickstart or revitalize any efforts at your site. Those rocket boosters really translate to, like we said, capacity building. There are 3 ways that capacity building takes place, and that's transfer of knowledge, transfer of products, and transfer of relationships. Those fairly broadly can be explained as a transfer of knowledge is a transfer of information, transfer of products is transfer of deliverables, and transfer of relationships is of any personal contacts that the member has during their year. Capacity building works regardless of what kind of site you are, and to show that, here are some of our current sites. You can see that the program spans the entire country, with sites representing charter schools, nonprofit organizations, community colleges, and minority-serving institutions. Some of you have, in the questionnaire that we sent out, asked whether or not your organization qualifies for the fellowship. And let me tell you, if you're here, we have invited you. And if we've invited you, it's because you qualify. I'll hand it back over to Brian now so he can guide us through some of the impact we've seen at our host sites.
Great, thanks, Martine. During our first 3 years of running the program, we are really grateful to have collaborated with 33 different host site partners. While each partner is diverse in their organization type, geographic area, and programming, they're all united by a common mission of providing access to experiential learning experiences that we know will ignite the curiosity of youth and help them to achieve their dreams. At those 33 host site partners, we've placed 55 AmeriCorps fellows that have either completed a year of service or are actively serving right now. Our fellows come with having a real passion for impact. The vast majority of them do have a 4-year college degree or in the process of finishing their degree. And they go through a vetting process to ensure that there's a good fit that we'll go into in more detail in just a moment. Next, since we're a capacity building initiative, we look at different types of metrics than maybe your typical program. So we ask each of our host sites to report on the number of systems and business processes that have been improved throughout the year. For instance, this might look like a new student registration process, or developing a new website management system, or looking at ways that you can track your partnerships more effectively. Overall, our 33 partners reported that almost 198 systems and business processes were enhanced during the time that our fellow was serving. Next, we also look at impact metrics like new or evolved partnerships that like we've been saying throughout, will go beyond the 1-year term of service. Our 33 partners reported that 272 new or evolved partnerships were developed as a result of our fellows working at their organization. This means that more local schools are engaged in your work, more businesses and community-based organizations are aware of and supporting your work. Next, as a result of our AmeriCorps fellows serving at our host site partners, we are really proud that we've been able to engage 5,700 total K through 14 students that have gained access to this programming. We've also raised close to $500,000 that our fellows have helped to support their host sites in raising through research and grant writing and partnership development. Okay, so now you've gotten a sense of what our fellows can do, a little bit of background on Citizen Schools and AmeriCorps. Now we're going to go into detail of what it takes to become a host site. So during this section, we'll go over the 5 different steps, from application and selection to pre-program planning, talking a little bit about each fellow's applicant journey, the MOU and cost share payment, and then program implementation. All right, let's dig into the application and selection process. Eligibility. Right now, we are running an invitation-only application process, which means that through our network of partners, our active host sites and referrals, we do outreach to partners that we think could be a good fit for the program. And you being here today is an indication that we think that, we could really collaborate and bring value to your work. Next, organization types. You've heard about this a little bit throughout today's presentation, but we work with a myriad of different types of organizations, from higher ed partners to minority serving institutions, to schools and school districts, libraries and museums. As long as you have a need that we think that a fellow can bring value to your work, and you're engaging youth in hands-on experiential learning experiences alongside mentors, we think that you could be a really great fit. Next, there's 2 different applicant types. First is a single host site, which means that you would be hosting the fellow at your specific organization. And for that, you can apply for 1 to 3 fellow service positions. And then a lot of our host sites may be intermediaries or have multiple partners that they want to work in and place fellows at multiple different sites. So you can apply as a lead applicant on behalf of multiple host sites. And if you're applying under that applicant type, you can apply for 2 to 4 fellow service positions. Next, let's dig into the application in a little bit more detail. We expect that you should allocate at least 45 to 60 minutes for completing the application. In each section, I'll walk through briefly here. So first, some background organizational information. You'll identify our primary and secondary contact, provide some background information on your organization. Next, you'll request the number of fellows that you're seeking to serve based on your applicant type that we just went over. Next, there will be a narrative portion to the application where you will describe your alignment with the Citizen Schools guiding principles and our target student competencies. So you'll go through each of our guiding principles that Martine shared earlier, and in a short narrative, explain how your organization is aligned. We expect there to be alignment. It doesn't mean that you see all of these manifest right now at your organization, but maybe have a commitment to seeing them manifest in the future. Next, you'll select the capacity building track, programs, partnerships, or volunteers where you'd like your fellow to support, and then you'll estimate the student reach numbers within that track. Next, you'll provide a service role description. So this is an important part of the application that's really going to be used to publicize the role to prospective AmeriCorps applicants. So in a short narrative, you'll provide a role description, share some of the key responsibilities, programs that the fellow will be supporting. In the last two sections, you'll identify the host site supervisor and describe their onboarding process that you would have them go through, how you would integrate them into your team culture. And then you will also provide an overview of how you recruit for roles similar to this. Recruitment is really a collaborative process between our team and your team, but we love to learn a little bit more about how you source similar roles to this. Next, selection process and criteria. We have a selection committee here at Citizen Schools that will review each applicant and assess across the following areas. First, during that narrative portion, we'll see if there's alignment with the Citizen Schools guiding principles. We want to make sure that we're adhering to the Vista core principles and upserving and really making sure that we're serving underrepresented students. We want you to identify your organizational need for capacity building. Explain clearly the value add that our AmeriCorps Vista member can bring to your current programming. And then last, ensure that you have the supervision and ongoing support structures in place that will lead to a productive service year. Okay, now that we've gone over the application and selection, let's go ahead and dig into some pre-program planning and recruitment. So once you're selected into the program, during the summer, we'll have a couple of months where we'll work with you collaboratively to get ready for hosting a fellow. So as we've talked about throughout the presentation today, we're really focused on organizational capacity building. And during our first few years of running this program, we've learned a lot. First, we learned that capacity building work is really difficult. It takes an investment in planning and time up front to be as effective as possible. So it's not our intention just to recruit an AmeriCorps fellow and place them at your organization and say, good luck. We want to work with you up front to really identify what are those business needs that you have. What are those systems and processes that we can help to develop? What are those partnerships that you've been meaning to get to? So to do that, we'll walk you through an organizational capacity assessment where we will work collaboratively with you through a series of 2 90-minute trainings to complete an organizational capacity assessment. There will be 4 different areas that you'll look into while completing this assessment. The first is resources. So we'll ask you to review, different topics. There will be 4 different subdimensions within this topic. You'll look at maybe your equipment and technology or staffing. Are there gaps where maybe volunteers can support more, or opportunities to do more outreach to increase your access to equipment and technical resources? Next, infrastructure. You'll look at your measurement and learning systems, your policies and procedures. Next, knowledge and skills. I think that we see this a lot in the field where we get all this great equipment. We have all these 3D printers and everything, but we need to make sure that we're developing the skills internally to continually train those to use those. So maybe there are opportunities to develop new training guides and tools along the way. Next, engagement and partnerships. How are you engaging the community and cultural groups to ensure buy-in and building external relationships and collaboration? So the big picture during this phase, you'll complete your capacity assessment, which will lead into a strengthening plan where you will identify tangible steps that you can take to address each of these areas. That will lead to a 1-year scope of work, which is a Vista assignment description that our fellow will then come in and help to execute on. This will provide us all with a pathway to make sure that we're measuring our success throughout the way and that we're really meeting the organizational needs that you have identified. And our big goal is to help to improve organizational performance and impact. During this phase, we'll also collaborate on recruitment. So our team will develop guides and tools to help you every step of the way. So we'll have email templates and social media guides that can help get the word out. Some of our best candidates have really come from the organizations that we work with and their referrals. So we do ask that it's a collaborative process in getting the word out about the opportunities. I'm going to quickly go over the candidate journey. So each AmeriCorps fellow will need to apply through the AmeriCorps site, or you can also, as a host site, complete a referral form. Then they will complete the application. We will do a first round phone screening at Citizen Schools, and we'll only send qualified candidates your way to complete a job simulation activity and final round interview. So you will be the hiring manager for this role. We will vet the applications for you, do a phone screening, and send you just the most qualified candidates that we think could be a good fit for your role. Martine, I'll kick it to you to go over the MOU and cost share.
Thank you. Yes. So we now know how candidates are selected. We have one more step before they can start serving with you. It's important to remember this entire process that Brian has covered up until this moment. That these candidates are vetted, selected. They go through a long process to make sure that we are getting you an ideal candidate for what you need. And from here, we develop an MOU and a cost share. So once candidates have been found, you'll come together with Citizen Schools to sign a memorandum of understanding. The MOU explains roles and responsibilities for both your organization and Citizen Schools, as well as a few general AmeriCorps provisions. With the MOU signed, each host site is responsible for submitting a $10,000 cost share. It is a cost share, so that means that while you will be putting $10,000, Citizen Schools is also responsible for additional costs associated with the program. And remember what that $10,000 represents. Citizen Schools works with you to find and train an applicant that is ideal for your organization. Most fellows have a bachelor's degree, and they are required to, at minimum, have an associate's degree. The market rate for your organization to find and onboard an employee of equal value greatly outweighs the cost share for an AmeriCorps fellow. And depending on your site, it could easily be well over $50,000 as compared to the $10,000 for the fellowship program. Brian?
Great. So I want to briefly speak about our program year implementation. Once we have a candidate on board, we've executed our MOU, we're ready to get to work. So I shared the Vista assignment description. This will be the tool that really provides the outline of all the objectives and steps that will need to be taken by our fellow to complete those objectives. This helps my team make sure that we're supporting the fellow to really achieve these objectives. We do that through monthly trainings, coaching, and support every step of the way. The VAD or Vista assignment description is written on a yearly basis. So we hope to work with our partners over multiple years, but each summer we will need to write a new VAD that really lays out the scope of work for the following year. We know that things change, so it can be amended a little bit once you get to know your fellow better and their strengths and skills. But any significant changes, we just want to work collaboratively with you to make those. So each host site will be identifying one supervisor that will help to recruit and conduct final round interviews, conduct the on-site training and orientation, and is ultimately responsible for the day-to-day supervision for the fellow. So they'll meet with them regularly, they'll meet with our team regularly, they'll attend quarterly supervisor calls and submit data reports biannually. So that walks you through the step-by-step of what it looks like to be a fellow and a host site. And Martine, I'll kick it over to you to go over our closing and next steps. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Brian. And in case anyone needs to leave, we're coming right up on time. We're going to cover a few things, but I want to remind everyone that the session is recorded. Questions will be submitted and will be sent out in a summarized format afterwards, along with the slides. So for anyone who has to leave, thank you for joining us. We only have a few slides left. So let's close with some highlights from our previous supervisors and then talk about next steps. I always like focusing a little bit on what our previous supervisors have said, and you can see that nearly all of our previous host site supervisors rated their experiences with the fellow positively, with the majority even saying their experience was excellent. This represents both their working relationship and the quality of the fellow's work. You can also see here a few highlights, a few quotes that we like to uplift. I specifically have one that I love. It's the one in red, that with the fellows' considerable efforts, we're able to get to projects that have been on the back burner. That is the core of what this program is about. It's about making sure, not that we come to you and tell you, here's a program that you need to run. It's making sure that you have the space and capacity to run the programs or run the, to build out the capacity that you see you need. So that is one little highlight that we wanted to share. So let's share about timeline and next steps. Applications are due the 30th of June. We then take the month of July to review the applications, and we then have host sites receiving confirmations by the end of July, July 31st. From there, we spend August recruiting fellows and have a start date of December 4th, with a program running through the calendar year, December to December. So that gives you a very good overview of how long this whole process takes, how long it takes for us to make sure you get your fellows, and how long you have them for. So with all that information now out of the way, we'd like to thank you so much for joining us for today's info session. Please put any remaining questions into the chat. We are going to remain online now to make sure we fill out any questions that you have here. And if we don't have space or time to get to anything, or if people need to leave, like we said, we will make sure that you receive a synthesis of the questions, the recording, and the slides in the email later on. So thank you all from all of us at Citizen Schools. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this AmeriCorps Fellowship Program info session.